Okay, guys, this is exactly why people are broke. Check this out.
5 Americans have a car note of at least $1,000 or more a month, which, according to the 10% rule, means they should be making an income of $120,000 or more. The 10% rule.
That is completely insane. I mean, think about someone having $1,000 car payment, and supposedly 1 in 5 people in this country have that. That's crazy. Like your monthly rent payment shouldn't be much more than $1,000 per month, right? I think the average household income is like $50,000 a year, and you have 1 in 5 people with $1,000 a month car payment. That's completely insane. I mean, when I was in my 20s, the majority of the time, my rent payment was like $400 a month, right? And I did make the massive mistake of as soon as I started making decent money, I bought a Ford Mustang, super nice, 20-inch rims, convertible, strong engine, premium car. That was back in 2018, and that was a well above average car, and my payment was $700 a month. And back in 2018, that was considered a huge payment. Now in 2024, I think the average payment is $700 per month. I mean, so it kind of makes sense, right? If the average payment is 700, a lot of people are paying over $1,000 per month. And then people wonder why they're broke.
Is an easy way to estimate how much car you can afford. You take your annual salary, divide by 12, multiply by 10%. That's your car note for the month. Here's what that.
Okay, let's check this out. Because honestly, I feel like this is going to be like that thing where like jewelers say, hey, if you're going to buy an engagement ring for your future wife, it should be, I think, what do they say, like 3 or 4 months of your income, right? Which I think is crazy. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? Like, you don't want to be a cheapskate with your wife. But I think these things are kind of made up to make you spend more money, right? So, for example, it says if you make, let's say, 40K a year, your car payment should be $300 a month. So multiply that by 12. That's about 4,000. It's basically about 10% of your income. I mean, that's not too terrible, honestly. And I mean, it's hard to get a car payment less than $300 per month. But if you're making like above that, 80, 90, even 70K a year, you should keep your payment at that, right? You shouldn't just say, hey, I'm making more money, so I'm going to get a bigger payment, to the point where you're paying $800, $900, $1,000 a month for a car, right? And just to clarify, that car that I bought, 3 years later, I sold it. And I got lucky because car values went up, right, during the pandemic. So I was actually able to sell it and almost break even. I just lost like a pinch of money, but I owned the car for like 3 years, right? So I made that same mistake that a lot of people do. As soon as you make a little bit of money, you think you deserve it. You work so hard. You deserve the nice things in life. And then what happens? Then you're freaking broke like everyone else, right? Then you wonder why you're freaking broke.
It looks like for someone making a $30,000 salary all the way down to $150,000.
That's crazy. $1,200 car payment.
I'm the host of Life After Debt with D. Marcus Garrett.
This is The Secret.
What are you driving? What's your car payment?
I drive a 2020 Corolla and I pay $300.
What are you driving? What's your payment?
I drive a 2022 Toyota Tundra. I pay $625 a month.
What are you driving? What's your car payment?
I got a 2024 Grand Highlander. I pay $1,200 a
Oh
month.
my God. This guy works at a car dealership. I mean, don't get me wrong. Some people that sell cars, I mean, he could be selling nice cars making $150K a year, right? Whatever. It's possible. I have a feeling he's probably not making that much because most people don't, especially at car dealerships. But I mean, $1,200 a month, that's completely insane. That's crazy. For what? I think he said he's driving a pickup truck. I mean, give me a break here. Jesus.
What are you driving? What's your payment?
I have a 22 4Runner TRD off-road with no car payment. I paid cash.
Nice.
What are you
Love
driving?
that.
What's your payment?
That's
I have a
what you should do.
2024 Toyota Limited 4Runner and I pay $572 a month.
What are you driving? What's your payment?
I drive a Mercedes and I have
Oh
no
my
payment
God.
because
Already, look at this kid. This kid looks like he's like 16. I mean, don't get me wrong, right? People look young. Maybe he's like 25, but he looks like he's 16. And right away, I don't even know what his payment is. He's driving a Mercedes. What does that tell you? I'm dang near 40 years old. I'm still not driving a Mercedes. I mean, I'm paying off debt. I'm trying to save my money. I'm trying to take care of my kid here. I'm trying to buy a house. And this is a kid. He's driving a Mercedes. This is the problem, right? People are valuing the wrong things. People are living paycheck to paycheck. People are struggling. The cost of living is completely insane. And then we have these high school kids buying Mercedes. It's crazy. Let's see what his car payment is.
My parents bought me my first car.
What are you driving? What's your
I think he
payment?
just said his parents bought
2023
the car.
TRD Camry is paid off.
Yeah.
What are you driving? What's your payment?
Crown, Toyota Crown Platinum. It's $590.
What are you driving? What's your payment?
I drive a TRD Camry. Payments $550 a month.
What are you driving? What's your car payment?
I drive a 20.
After working at a bank.
All right, let's check this one out.
Behind these $700 car payments. Every time I work on budgets and I see any car payment, even above like $600, I want to like choke on my own vomit. And before you say,
100%.
Jess, the average car is like $35,000. I don't care. You don't need a $35,000 car.
You don't need a $35,000 car. Up until basically my entire 20s and half of my 30s, I drove like a $3,000 car. Literally cars that people think of as like junker cars, right? My dad gave me the hardest time. I went to school for a long time, was broke my entire 20s, finally had a little bit of money, bought a super nice car, sold that car, and went back to driving junkers because I didn't want to waste my money on cars. And my dad would give me such a hard time. He says, you need a good car. Stop. And you know what? To some extent, he has a point. But like, you don't need a $35,000 car, right? You don't need a pickup truck unless you need it for work. The majority of people that own pickup trucks don't need a pickup truck. It's crazy. They just buy it because they think it's cool. And so they can lend it to their friends to go move their furniture, right? I don't understand why you want to be the one guy that owns a pickup truck so your friends could always call you to borrow your pickup truck. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? And I know because I always call my one friend that has a pickup truck to borrow his pickup truck. But like, you don't need a $35,000 car, right? You can get, start off with a $3,000 car, pay it off, take good care of it. It's going to break down here and there, but hopefully it's not too crazy. Try and find a decent mechanic, which is tough, but that's key. If you can find an honest mechanic, which I did, I got a really good mechanic, super honest guy. I mean, if you can walk out of a mechanic spending less than like $500, you're freaking lucky, right? But even if you spend $500, it's better than spending $700 every month on a car payment. And then in a few years, hopefully you have 10 grand saved up. Maybe you saved 5 and your wife saved up 5, whatever. If you're lucky to have a wife a partner that can save money as well, buy a $10,000 car. That's what we did, right? Now we're at the point where we're basically in our 40s and we finally were able to buy a $20,000 car cash, right? Which is a huge blessing, right? Most people can't do that. We're lucky. We've been really blessed. We've had a few good years. But now we don't have a car payment, right? So I completely agree with this girl. You don't need a $35,000 car.
You want a $35,000 car. The most expensive
100%.
car I ever bought was a 2015 Mazda 3. I bought it in 2016 for $14,000, like walking out the door, and my car payment was $315.15. And I thought that was a lot, and it really isn't. Nowadays, with my income and everything, I would say
I will say though, to be fair to everyone watching this video, cars are extremely expensive, right? You go out, like I think we're looking to sell, we have a 1999 SUV and they're selling for like $3,000. Now ours is like falling apart, so I don't think we'll get 3,000. But a 25-year-old car with like 200,000 miles on it for $3 grand, that's insane. Stuff is way too expensive. And I do think that eventually there's going to be some kind of a car market correction. I mean, I don't want to be that guy that's like, the housing market's going to crash. The car market's going to crash. But like, people can only become so car poor and so house poor until something's got to give, right? It's supply and demand. I think eventually, more cars are going to start to get repoed. People are going to start to be, more car poor and have less money left over. Something's got to give, right? But the point I'm saying is like, I don't want to come off like I'm bragging that I bought cheap cars when cars are expensive now, right? Totally get it. But at the same time, you have to adjust your expectations. Like, if it was 5 years ago, that $20,000 car we just bought, maybe it would have only had 50,000 miles on it. It's got 100,000 miles on it. We bought a $20,000 car. It's a 2013. It was 10 years old when we bought it with 100,000 miles, a Lexus. It's a good car. I get it. It's a Lexus. Guys, it was a $20,000 car, okay? We didn't buy a $100,000 Lexus. 10 years old with 100,000 miles on it still cost $20,000. Still. So I get it. Everything's super expensive, but you find a way to make it work, right? We found a good dealership. We had the car looked at by our mechanic as well. We know everything's working well. This car should last us like 10, 15 years easily, right? And then in the meantime, we keep saving. And then whatever car we can afford cash in 10 years, that's what we're going to buy, right? We're not going to have a massive payment. We're not going to do it.
I don't think I'd be comfortable paying more than $450. $500 is pushing it. And some of you are willing to have $700 plus car payments. Not only that, I've seen people with car payments like more than some people's mortgages. I've seen people come with car payments like $1,400. For $1,400, I better be able to live in that thing. I also feel like cars are just like the biggest tricks ever, because it's like I've just never looked at someone's vehicle, even if it's like the oldest thing in the world, and been like, ew, like look what they, I don't care.
That's so true. And I learned that when I had a nice car, right? Because cars are like, it's like a niche thing, right? For 90% of people, it's just something to get you from point A to point B. You want it to be comfortable. You want it to be reliable. You don't want to have anxiety about it, breaking down on your way to work. But like, you're not going to impress 90% of people, even if you have a nice car, right? It's like shoes, right? Like some people are into Jordans and they're like obsessed with them, and they'll wait in line all night and they'll spend $1,000 for a pair of Jordans. But like 99% of people don't care about that. So like you could wear your $1,000 pair of Jordans and no one's even going to know for the most part, right? It's a niche. Same thing with like women that love handbags, right? That buy expensive handbags. It's the same thing with cars, right? When I had a nice car, nobody cared. I mean, sure, some of my buddies were impressed or whatever, but it's like, it's not a big deal. And it's like anything else. It's a toy, right? You're going to get bored. We're like kids. We buy a nice toy. My son, I have a 6-month-old son. He plays with his toy. 5 minutes later, he's bored. It's the same thing with a freaking car. Don't waste your money on cars. Seriously.
I feel like most people do not care. Like, I will get in the oldest, like, beat up car ever of someone else's and not give, like...
What's the balance of this?
48,000.
We just got it.
Yeah.
How many months?
I saw this one. This one's completely insane.
75. You're not going to like the interest rate either.
What is it? That's
18.
Yeah, that's 18.
No, are you my life?
No.
What are you doing? What are you guys doing to your future, guys?
18% interest rate. No. Just no, you can't. You can't do it. 18%, that's like a credit card, buying your car on a credit card. That's insane. This is literally an example. And that whoever gave them that loan and sold them that car, I'm sorry, that's disgusting. Like, that's seriously disgusting. Like, talk about predatory selling and lending. I mean, I doubt these people are rich, right? They're probably average people. Maybe they have a household income of like 80K. And then someone sold them a $48,000 car, gave them an 18% interest rate loan. And I've actually seen this video. The car is valued at, I think, like $20,000 less than what they bought it for just like a couple months ago. I mean, jeez.
Well, how could you sign this? How could you see the number 18 and sign it? At 70 whatever months with that minimum monthly payment? You guys are lucky you don't have a mortgage. Oh,
that was kind of our reasoning.
That's a bad reason.
We can afford it.
That gives you opportunity. That doesn't mean fuck up more.
You're right, but we can afford it.
No.
It's just...
Guys, the car's worth $31,550.
Well, aren't they all always upside down?
$31,000. They got a $48,000 loan. It's worth $31,000. So if they wanted to sell it, they can't. It's worth basically $20,000 less than they bought it. And they're trapped. Like, imagine wanting to get rid of that 18% loan on a $48,000 loan. How do you get rid of it? You're underwater. You can't. It's predatory. It's disgusting. This is why people need financial education, guys. Seriously. God.
Like the first year?
Yeah, but that's a substantial drop. Let's go. That's a substantial drop.
Okay, well.
What is that, $17,000?
Yeah.
Did I math that right?
I will say the Prius was upside down 14. They ended up only needing to roll over.
Did you put nothing down?
Mm-mm.
For the Prius?
We put 20.
Oh, that's terrible.
I bought a $30,000 car by myself as a 25-year-old independent person with one stream of income. But let's break down the numbers of how much my monthly payment is and how much cash I put down for my car. I went with the 2024 Subaru Crosstrek in the color Offshore Blue. I freaking love that car. It is gorgeous. It is a gas guzzler. I'm jumping from a Prius to now a Subaru. So to break down the numbers, my car price was $30,954. I got a discount from Subaru for $1,675 from the sales price, so my final sales price was $29,279. I also put down a little bit of cash because I wanted to decrease the interest that I would pay over the course of the loan. So I put down $8,000 and the final amount financed was $21,283. So Subaru is currently running a promo for all the Crosstreks at a 3.9% interest rate. So at that APR, I am now paying for 60 months, $392 monthly for my car payment.
5 years, 400 a month. I mean, it's not terrible. I mean, I don't know this girl's income. She looks semi-professional, so I'm assuming, you know, maybe she's making at least 50K, which puts her at under the 10%. That's not terrible, right? I mean, it's not the best thing like buying a car cash and saving up to buy a nicer car, but you're probably not going to go so broke from a $400 payment as long as it's a good car, right? You know, like if you're at the point where there's a time and a place, right? Like we've sacrificed for years. We got a nicer car. We still don't have a payment, but if you want to have a payment, if you've worked hard, you're in a good place, totally get it. $400, not the craziest thing in the world, especially this day and age. But one thing that I think is a little weird is that interest rates are like 10% on cars, but then you have these promotions where the dealerships are giving you like 2 or 3% interest rate, like this girl said. So like, I don't fully understand how that's working. I think maybe the dealerships have contracts with these banks, and the banks are just making their money off the fees to originate the loans. I just don't understand with interest rates being so high how they do that. Part of what makes me think, you know, maybe they're propping up prices with these little deals they have with interest rates, right? Something smells fishy there, right? I mean, let me know what you guys think about that. With that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you guys like this video, like and subscribe. Really appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to be posting videos like this on financial education, what's happening with car markets, the cost of living, basically everything that affects you and your money. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're doing all right, and I'll see you on the next video.